Good morning, YouTubers. It is April 10th, 2020, and it's Good Friday. And it dawned on me today that maybe some of you have never actually heard the account of Jesus' death on Good Friday. So I'm going to take this opportunity to share it with you today. And if you're interested, please watch this till the very end. If not, it's okay too. But I wanted to put it out there so that those of you who maybe have never heard it before can actually have the opportunity to hear it from the Bible. And I am going to be reading from Matthew 26 and Matthew 27, and this is the story of Good Friday. The plot to kill Jesus. When Jesus had finished all these sayings, he said to his disciples, "You know that after 2 days is the Passover, and the Son of Man will be betrayed to be crucified." Then the chief priests and scribes and the elders of the people gathered in the place of the high priest, who was called Caiaphas, and took counsel that they might take Jesus covertly and kill him. But they said, "Not on the feast day, lest there be an uproar among the people." When Jesus was in Bethany, in the house of Simon the leper, a woman came to him having an alabaster jar of a very expensive ointment and poured it on his head as he sat at supper. When his disciples saw it, they were indignant, saying, "For what purpose is this waste? This ointment might have been sold for a large sum and given to the poor."
When Jesus perceived it, he said to them, "Why do you trouble the woman? She has done a good work for me. For you have the poor always with you, but you do not always have me. In pouring this ointment on my body, she did it for my burial. Truly I say to you, wherever the gospel shall be preached in this whole world, what this woman has done will be told in memory of her." Then one of the 12, who was called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said to them, "What will you give me if I hand him over to you?" And they paid him 30 pieces of silver. From that moment he searched for an opportunity to betray him. On the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the disciples came to Jesus saying, "Where will you have us prepare for you to eat the Passover?" He said, "Go into the city to a certain man and say to him, 'The teacher says, my time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples.'" The disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared for the Passover. When evening came, he sat down with the 12, and as they were eating, he said, "Truly I say to you, one of you will betray me." They were very sorrowful, and each of them began saying to him, "Lord, is it I?" He answered and said, "He who has dipped his hand with me in the dish will betray me. The Son of Man goes as it is written of him. But woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been good for that man if he had not been born." Then Judas, who betrayed him, answered, "Master, is it I?" He said to him, "You have said it." As they were eating, Jesus took bread, blessed it, broke it, and gave it to the disciples and said, "Take and eat. This is my body." Then he took the cup, and after he gave thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink of it, all of you, for this is my blood of the new covenant, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. I say to you, I will not drink of this fruit of the vine from now until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom." And when they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Then Jesus said to them, "All of you will fall away on account of me this night, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I have risen, I will go before you to Galilee." Peter answered, "Though all men will fall away on account of you, yet I will never fall away." Jesus said to him, "Truly I say to you, this night, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times." Peter said to him, "Though I should die with you, yet I will not deny you." And all the disciples spoke in the same manner. Then Jesus came to a place called Gethsemane, and said to the disciples, "Sit here while I go and pray close by." He took with him Peter, the two sons of Zebedee, and began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, "My soul is very sorrowful, even to death. Wait here and keep watch with me." He went a little farther, and falling on his face, he prayed, "O my Father, if it is not possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will." Then he came to the disciples and found them sleeping, and said to Peter, "So you could not keep watch with me for 1 hour? Watch and pray that you enter not into temptation. The spirit is indeed willing, but the flesh is weak." He went away for a second time and prayed, "O my Father, if this cup cannot pass away from me unless I drink it, your will be done." Again he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. So leaving them again, he went away and prayed for a third time, saying the same words. Then he came to his disciples and said to them, "Sleep on now, and take your rest. Look, the hour is near, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us be going. Look, he who betrays me is at hand." While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, came, and with him a great crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests and elders of the people. Now he who betrayed him had given them a sign, saying, "Whoever I shall kiss is the man. Seize him." He immediately came to Jesus and said, "Hail, Rabbi," and kissed him. And Jesus said to him, "Friend, why have you come?" And they came and laid hands on Jesus and took him. Immediately one of those who were with Jesus stretched out his hand and drew his sword, and struck the servant of the high priest and cut his ear off. Then Jesus said to him, "Put your sword back in its place, for all those who take up the sword will perish by the sword. Do you think that I cannot pray now to my God, and he would once give me more than 12 legions of angels? But then how would scriptures be fulfilled? That it must be so." At that same moment Jesus said to the crowds, "Have you come out against us as a thief to take me with swords and clubs? Daily I sat with you in the temple teaching, and you did not seize me. But all this was done that scriptures of the prophets might be fulfilled." Then all the disciples forsook him and fled. Those who had seized Jesus led him away to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the scribes and elders had assembled. But Peter followed him from afar to the high priest's courtyard and went in, and sat with the servants to see the end. The chief priests and the elders and the entire Sanhedrin searched for false witness against Jesus to put him to death, but they found none. Yes, though many false witnesses came forward, they found none. At last 2 false witnesses came forward and said, "This fellow said, 'I am able to destroy the temple of God and build it in 3 days.'" Then the high priest stood up and said to him, "Do you answer nothing? What is it these men testify against you?" But Jesus remained silent. The high priest said to him, "I adjure you by the living God, tell us whether you are the Christ, the Son of God." Jesus said to him, "You have said so. But I say to you, hereafter you will see the Son of Man seated on the right hand of power, coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his clothes, saying, "He has uttered blasphemy. What further need do we have for witnesses? See now, you have heard his blasphemy. What do you think?" They answered, "He is guilty unto death." They spat in his face and struck him, and others slapped him with the palms of their hands, saying, "Prophesy to us, you Christ. Who is it that struck you?" Now Peter sat outside the courtyard, and a girl came to him, saying, "You were with Jesus of Galilee." But he denied it before them all, saying, "I do not know what you are saying." Then when he went on to the porch, another girl saw him and said to those who were there, "This man was also with Jesus of Nazareth." Again he denied it with an oath, "I do not know this man." After a while those who stood by came to Peter and said, Surely you are one of them, for your accent betrays you." Then he began to invoke a curse on himself and swore, "I do not know this man." Then immediately the rooster crowed. Then Peter remembered the word Jesus had spoken, "Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times." Then he went out and wept bitterly. When morning came, all the chief priests and elders of the people took counsel against Jesus and put him to death. When they had bound him, they led him away and handed him over to Pontius Pilate, the governor. When Judas, who had betrayed him, saw that he was condemned, he repented and brought back the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders, saying, "I have sinned that I have betrayed innocent blood." They said, "What is that to us? You must see to that." So he threw down the pieces of silver on the temple and departed. And he went and hanged himself. Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus said to him, "You have said so." When he was accused by the chief priests and elders, he gave no answer. Then Pilate said to him, "Do you not hear how many things they testify against you?" But he never answered him a word, so that the governor was greatly amazed. Now at the feast, the governor was accustomed to releasing the people a prisoner whom they chose. They had a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. So when they had gathered together, Pilate said to them, "Whom do you want me to release to you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ?" For he knew that they had handed him out over envy. When he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent word to him, "Have nothing to do with that righteous man, for I have suffered much today in a dream on account of him." But the chief priests and elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and kill Jesus. The governor answered, "Which of the two do you want me to release to you?" They said, "Barabbas!" Pilate said to them, "Then what shall I do with Jesus, who is called Christ?" They all said to him, "Let him be crucified." The governor said, "Why? What evil has he done?" But they cried out all the more, "Let him be crucified!" Then Pilate saw that he could not prevail, but rather that unrest was beginning. He took water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying, "I am innocent of the blood of this righteous man. See to it yourselves." Then the people answered, "His blood be on us and our children." Then he released Barabbas to them. But when he had scourged Jesus, he handed him over to be crucified. The soldiers of the governor took Jesus to the praetorium and gathered the whole detachment of soldiers before him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him. And when they wove a crown of thorns, they put it on his head and put a staff in his right hand. They knelt before him and mocked him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They spit on him and took the staff and hit him over the head. After they had mocked him, they took the robe off of him, put his own garments on him, and led him away to crucify him. As they came out, they found a man of Cyrene, Simon by name. This man they compelled to bear his cross. When they came to a place called Golgotha, which means place of the skull, they gave him sour wine mingled with gall to drink. But when he tasted it, he would not drink it. When they crucified him, they divided his garments by casting lots to fulfill what was spoken of by the prophets. They divided my garments among themselves, and for my clothing they cast lots. And sitting down, they kept watch over him. They put his accusation over his head, which read, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." The 2 thieves were crucified with him, one on the right, another on the left. Those who passed by insulted him, wagging their heads, saying, "You would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days. Save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from that cross." Likewise, the chief priests and the scribes and the elders mocked him, saying, "He saved others, but he can't save himself. If he is the King of Israel, let him now come down from the cross, and we will believe him. He trusted in God. Let him deliver him now, if he will have him. For he said, 'I am the Son of God.'" Even the thieves who were crucified with him insulted him in the same way. Now from the 6th hour to the 9th hour there was darkness over all the land. About the 9th hour Jesus cried out with a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Some of those who stood there heard it and said, "This man is calling for Elijah." Immediately one of them ran, took a sponge, filled it with wine, and put it on a stick and gave it to him to drink. The rest said, "Leave him alone. Let us see if Elijah will come to save him." And Jesus, when he had cried out again with a loud voice, released his spirit. At that moment the curtain of the temple was torn in two, from the top to the bottom, and the ground shook, and the rocks split apart. The graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had died were raised and coming out of the graves after his resurrection. They went into the city and appeared to many. When the centurion and those with him, keeping watch over Jesus, saw the earthquake and what took place, they feared greatly and said, "Truly, he was the Son of God." Many women who were there watching from afar followed Jesus from Galilee, serving him. Among them was Mary Magdalene, and Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's sons. When the evening came, there came a rich man of Arimathea, named Joseph, who was also a disciple of Jesus. He went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate commanded the body to be given to him. When Joseph had taken the body, he wrapped it in a clean linen cloth and laid it in his own new tomb, which he had cut out of the rock, and rolled a large stone to the door of the tomb and departed. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were there, sitting opposite the tomb. The next day, following the day of preparation, the chief priests and Pharisees gathered before Pilate, saying, "Sir, we remember that deceiver saying while he was still alive, 'After 3 days I will rise.' Therefore command that the tomb be made secure until the 3rd day, lest his disciples come by night and steal him away and tell the people, 'He has risen from the dead.' The last deception will be worse than the first." Pilate said to them, "You have a guard. Go your way. Make it as secure as you can." So they went and made the tomb secure by sealing the stone and posting the guard. And that is the account of Jesus' death. On Sunday, I hope to do a video about the resurrection of Jesus. So if you enjoyed this, please come back on Sunday, and I will tell you what happens next. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.